Hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of MazzaOnJets. It's Evan Mazza here, and obviously, I just wanted to come in and talk a bit about about the breaking news out of the Jets training camp today in Florham Park. Justin Fields suffers an injury during the second day of training camp. A couple of hours ago, it was reported by Adam Schefter that he was carted off the field, uh, was carted to the locker room with an apparent lower leg injury. Apparently, not many reporters that were there saw the injury itself. They weren't sure what exactly was going on because it was guys like Connor Hughes and I think Rich Cimini were on the other side of the field during the practices. Today, of course, was day two of Jets practice at training camp, and of course, as soon as we all saw the reports and saw the breaking news, and as everything was coming out a couple of hours ago, obviously we all, I'm sure a lot of us, I'm sure a lot of Jet fans, I'm sure everyone, a lot of Jet fans who thought, oh, this is a torn ACL, it's a torn Achilles, the season's already over before it already began. And yeah, that was obviously everyone's immediate mindset. As soon as you hear the words carted to the locker room, you immediately think torn ACL, Achilles, something like that, right? And it was a non-contact injury, or sort of a non-contact. He was actually stepped on by a teammate. He was under pressure in practice by a defensive player. He was stepped on in practice. But as soon as you heard the words carted off, cards to the locker room, you immediately thought torn ACL, torn Achilles, and he might be out for the season. So obviously that would have been hard. That would have been real heartbreaking thing to see for Justin Fields. He's a good kid, good player. You come in with new. There's a lot of there's a lot of positives going on with the Jets right now, and with Fields severe serious injury, I think would have really hurt those positivity stuff. And obviously for Fields, this was a good opportunity for him. He's trying to make a name for himself in the league, get back into things. His third team in the NFL the last couple of years could be of a team. The Jets signed him to be kind of like, I guess I mentioned before, kind of like their Jared Goff, right? Like Aaron Glenn saw with Dan Campbell in Detroit. So a torn ACL, a torn Achilles, boy, it would have been horrible to see for Justin Fields and obviously for the Jets, but definitely for Justin Fields. But that was obviously everyone's big reaction. How bad is the injury? Is he all right? Um, so obviously you got to wait it out, right? I think everyone was kind of assuming it was a torn ACL or a torn Achilles, but we didn't know. Truthfully, we didn't know, and you won't know anything until it was official. Uh, but everyone was just kind of assuming for the minutes and minutes on end when practice was going on, waiting for Aaron Glenn to come and talk. Said they said when he went to the trainer staff that they had to take a shoe off, and he did walk to the facility on his own, off the cart. So, but they took a shoe off and had to see and had to check out the injury. But again, we were all sitting there waiting to see what was it, what was the injury, is it a leg injury, knee injury? And Aaron Glenn went to the podium today after practice, and he said it's a toe injury. So it's a toe injury on his right foot that he suffered during practice. And okay, so immediately you kind of breathe a sigh of relief. And then Ian Rappaport came out just under an hour ago, about 46 or so minutes ago, carted off the field with a toe injury from getting stepped on from practice, suffered a dislocated toe. It is a dislocated toe for Justin Fields. No fracture and not the big toe. He's still undergoing tests, but that's the initial diagnosis. Severity is unclear. Uh, Ian Rappaport then continued a few minutes later. A dislocated non-big toe for Justin Fields fits into the category of an injury that could have been a lot worse, but still plenty of info to gather. Tom Pelissero said that the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero also said that Justin Fields is going to get an MRI. So that's how we're going to know the severity of it. He's getting an MRI as the team continues to gather information. That's what Tom Pelissero said. So it looks like we're going to see the severity of it. Aaron Glenn said it was a toe injury. They don't know the severity. Um, then you find out that it's a dislocated toe, but not a fracture and not a big toe, which is key. According to one of the Jets, one of the members of Jets X Factor, he's at Jets training camp right now. He said he says, if is this correct? A dislocation, a non-big toe from Rappaport. The difference between the big toe and a non-big toe is massive. He says, I really wouldn't worry about it as long as it's a non-big toe. So yeah, if it's obviously if it was the big toe, it'd be a little bit more serious. But the fact that it is a non-big toe and it's just dislocated, not fractured, it looks like the Jets and Justin Fields, again, we still know the severity. He could still need to get surgery, But it looks like the Jets and Justin Fields obviously, you know, obviously it looks like he's not going to miss any time. It wasn't anything truly serious, wasn't anything truly major. But it still stings for Justin Fields. He just started training camp practice for the Jets. This is only the Jets' second day of practice, and already you lose your starting quarterback for at least an extended period of time. We don't know how long. Hopefully he's back by week one. Hopefully week one he'll be all set and ready to go. But that still depends on the severity of the toe injury and if he does need surgery or not. But it looks like but of course, the good news is it doesn't look like a season-ending injury. It doesn't look like he's going to be out all year long, and that's good for the Jets. That's good for the Jet fans, but most especially that's good for him because I've said it before. I think Justin Fields is a guy who can make his name with the Jets. I think the Jets and Justin Fields can be a team, can be a marriage that could last at least some years. I really believe that. I really believe Justin Fields could do some good things for the Jets with this offense, with this running game, and with this new head coach, a new regime, a new culture. I think Fields can add to that. I was pretty impressed with Fields last year with the Steelers. Now the toe injury, I mentioned the running game. That I think where it could cause some effect here because obviously Fields is a dual threat quarterback and a lot of his value comes in his legs, so how does the toe injury affect his rushing ability? And that's obviously something that we're going to have to find out as if when the severity of the injury comes out, how when the MRI comes out and if he's going to be out for a bit. And when he does come back, how much is that injury going to affect him? That is something we're going to have to know, that we're going to have to find out. But this is obviously just a quick reaction, just to see, just to instant, just as this is obviously just a quick reaction off the injury, what we know so far with the Fields injury. But there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things a lot of things that we're going to try to understand, try to talk about until we find out how the injury really is and what the MRI says. But that is something that's going to have to be considered, obviously, with his rushing ability, because that's where a lot of his value is going to come from, and a lot of his ability is going to come from running the football. Like I said, him and Brees Hall and Braylon Allen could definitely be a very good rushing tandem together. I really do believe that. I think, and I've said before, the Jets' way of winning football games is running the football. You know, that's been who they've been when they've won football games. It's running the football. So, but for the time being, looks like he's going to be out for a bit. If he is out for a while, and I think that's another thing. I think that's again, it's a good thing. It looks like he's not going to be out for the season, but I think what also you have to think about is, well, that's practice time he's going to miss. Again, new team, new organization, new system, new offensive line, new running backs, essentially new receivers aside from Garrett Wilson. But even with Garrett Wilson, he hasn't played with him since college days in Ohio State. But again, that's where I think also you look at and go, okay, he's going to miss a lot of practice time. And he needs that practice time. He needs the practice. He needs the training camp. Obviously, there's only 3 preseason games now instead of 4. And obviously the starters don't even play much of the preseason anyway nowadays, especially for other teams. The Jets might be a bit of a different story because, again, everyone's trying to prove themselves, new head coach and everything. So the Jets are probably a little bit different in that regard. But even still, lesser preseason games, everyone's more inclined to sit their starters during the preseason. They don't really get as many snaps as they used to years ago. But so I think that is where you're going to look. That is where things could affect Fields and affect the offense when he's eventually back out there. Is the lack of practice time and the lack of reps that he's going to get. This is only the second day of training camp, so this is only the second day. So how is that going to, when he does come back, or how, depending on how severe of the injury is and how the injury is, if and when he does come back, how much of the lack of practice time, if he does have to miss an extended period of time with practice, how much could that affect him when he does eventually go back out there in the regular season because there's no chemistry, and he was still trying to build that chemistry and that connection with the offense and the offensive coordinator and Aaron Glenn and weapon and receivers like Garrett Wilson and such. How will that go? You have to think about that. So these are all things to obviously look at and think about for Justin Fields and the Jets offense when we find out the severity of the injury, when we know more about the injury, and if he's going to be out for a while. So it does stink, obviously. It still stinks. It's great that it's not season ending, but it still stinks for him. It still stinks that he's going to be out for a bit, that he could be out for a bit and could miss extended practice time and reps that he really needs. Him and this Jets offense really needs. So that's the extent of the injury we know to this point with the Jets and Justin Fields. That is what we know to this point. That is a dislocated non-big toe. That it's not a fracture. Um, it's not, but he's going to get an MRI, and we're going to see if he needs surgery or not on it. So again, looks like he avoided a season-ending injury, but still could miss some time. Now, here comes the question. If he does have to miss time, now you look at the quarterback depth chart now. They signed Tyrod Taylor at the beginning of in the offseason as their backup because again last year they had so much problems with finding with the backup quarterback or 2 years ago in 2023 I should say they didn't really have much at backup quarterback when Aaron Rodgers went down. Rodgers of course played all 16 games last year, but they didn't have a backup 2 years ago. They really needed a backup, you know. So you signed a pretty good, solid quality backup in Tyrod Taylor. But now Tyrod Taylor can go out and win you some games. Like Tyrod Taylor is no slouch. The guy can go out there, win you a game or two. He can. So so now Tyrod Taylor, as of now, is the starting quarterback, or at least for training camp and practices, at least for now. So he's a decent name to have, and he can go out there and win you some games or a game or two. I think he could if it comes to the case where he does, if it comes to it where he might have to start week one. Again, we're not there yet, but if he does have to start week one against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think Tyrod Taylor can go out there and beat the Steelers. You know, but but as of now, he's going to be the starting quarterback, getting the starting reps during training camp, in practice, and for all we know, into the preseason. So, but the rest of the quarterback depth, but then you have to look at who's behind him too, because Tyrod Taylor is, I like Tyrod, but unfortunately, he's a guy who's had injury problems he's had injuries over his career, and he's missed games over his career. So who's behind him? Well, you have Adrian Martinez, that who has not taken an NFL snap in his career. I don't think Chris Streetler is on the depth chart anymore. I think Chris Streetler is no longer on the Jets. Let me check the Jets QB depth chart right now. Tyrod Taylor, Adrian Martinez, Brady Cook. Hey, a Brady on the Jets. Brady Cook. Yeah, that's their depth chart right now. Adrian Martinez, Brady Cook, and that's who's behind Tyrod Taylor right now. So depending on the severity of the injury and if Justin Fields is going to be out for an extended period of time, maybe it's an injury that does carry over into the rest of the regular season. Do the Jets think about signing a quarterback? I mean, the only one I can think of right now is Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has not signed with anybody, and he's been a free agent really since all of last year. I'm surprised nobody signed Ryan Tannehill last year. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill was not signed last year, and he's still a free agent now, heading into training as teams are now in training camp. Tannehill is just sitting there waiting for a phone call. If Justin Fields, and Tannehill's had a nice little career for himself. He certainly resurrected himself in Tennessee and had some success. If Justin Fields' MRI comes out where he's going to have to miss an extended period of time, where it could be into the regular season, and maybe because maybe he has to get surgery. Ryan Tannehill is not a bad option to look at and just sign and have him compete with Tyrod Taylor for the job, or see how he performs. But at least you have some depth with Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Tannehill for at least the first couple of weeks of the season. And then when Justin Fields comes back, you have Fields, Tannehill, and Tyrod that you can have on the Jets QB depth chart for the rest of the season. I know the saying, so that's certainly an option they can look at. Obviously, you could look at trades. Of course, the Cleveland Browns have 4 quarterbacks on their roster. Maybe you can call the Browns for one of their 4 quarterbacks or something like that. Obviously, Kenny Pickett would be the one maybe you would look at. But if Fields is going to be out for some time and maybe into the regular season, if he has to get surgery or such, if Ryan Tannehill is not a bad name to look at. He's not a bad name to think about in signing. So, but as of now, Justin Fields is getting an MRI. He dislocated one of his non-big. He dislocated. It's the right toe. It's on a toe. It's in his right foot. A toe in his right foot. Non-big toe. He was stepped on in practice on a play, but it was carted off the field. But he did walk off into the Jets facility on his own after he was carted off. After he was carted off. So, but that is what we know to this point with Justin Fields' injury. So I just wanted to hop on and talk about it for a bit, what some of the options they could have, the impact of this injury, and just talk about it just in general. we will we'll talk about it more the more we find out about it. So stay tuned for that. For more on MazzaOnJets, we'll talk more about the injury the more we know about it when the MRI comes out. Stay tuned, of course, for MazzaOnMets. We got to recap Mets series in against the Los Angeles Angels as they sweep the Angels. They're now back in first place by half a game after the Boston Red Sox defeat the Phillies yesterday on Sunday Night Baseball. The Mets head off. The Mets are heading off to a West Coast road trip this weekend in San Francisco for a big series. And then they go to San Diego for another big series before they come back home to play the Giants. So a big 9 game stretch for the Mets coming up against the Giants, the Padres, and then the Giants. Uh, talk about we'll talk about that series with the Giants. Talk about more about the trades and what they could be doing. So we'll see. So stay tuned for MazzaOnMets later on. But for MazzaOnJets, this has been your host Evan Mazza. Just want to hop on and talk about, of course, just want to hop on and talk about the Justin Fields injury. So as it looks like for now, as it looks like, not obviously not ideal, but certainly semi good news for the Jets. This is not a season-ending injury for Justin Fields. It looks like that it looks like that he won't miss at least at least a deep part into the regular season. So it looks like the Jets and Justin Fields, uh, his injury is not serious. So that's the good news. So some semi good news for Justin Fields, semi good news for the Jets. That Fields' injury is not as bad as I'm sure a lot of people thought it was going to be. The moment they saw he was carted off the field with a leg injury, so as soon as they saw that report, that's all we thought about: 20 ACL Achilles. But it looks like but it's not the case. But that's not it. And it looks like Fields at least will be out for some time, possibly, and he should be back. But he should be back for playing regular season football for the Jets, which is a good thing, you know. And if Tyrod Taylor does have to play week 1, week 2, I think you're okay with that. I actually think just for a little quick, I think I would start Tyrod Taylor the first week or so if Justin Fields is going to miss some time in practice because I want Fields to get some time. I want Fields to again because this is a new team for Fields, a new team for him, a new offense and everything. I want Fields to get the practice time and get comfortable, you know, before before he steps onto a regular season field. You know, you know, I would rather if I don't want Justin Fields to go out there unprepared, because of the fact that because of him missing some time. If he's not ready, not just health wise, if he's not ready, if he's back at practice but he's not ready to grasp the offense and play and comfortable, I don't want to send him out there if he's not comfortable. I'd rather Tyrod Taylor go out there for at least a week or two and until Fields is ready. So if you want to keep Fields out for maybe the first 2 weeks just so he can get some extra practice time, and then have Tyrod start the first 2 weeks, and then Fields plays week 3. I think you'd be okay with that. I think if you're the Jets, I would I think you'd be okay with that because I would rather Fields go in there when he's comfortable and ready to play than go out there and he's missing practice time and he's not really ready to play. So that again, that's just a little quick opinion of mine. But obviously, if you're the Jets, when Fields is back and healthy, and obviously the Jets, I think if he's healthy and ready to go, he's playing. So no matter how much practice time he misses, but that's just my quick opinion on that. Anyway, that'll do it for today's episode of MazzaOnJets. Stay tuned for episode of MazzaOnMets, and also stay tuned soon for MazzaOnRavens as their training camp begins. But that's MazzaOnJets for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please give this video a like, share, and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Have yourselves a great day, and let's go Jets.